Thank you, Kim, and hello, everyone. Probably a good chance I've chatted with some of you over time. I've been a system consultant to the Mental Health Board and DD Board since about 2010, and I can share some of your aspirations in terms of reporting into grant funding applications as I was executive director for NAMI for almost 5.5 years here in McHenry County, as well as a Homeless Barrel, an agency for homeless women and children. So a lot of what we design is with not only meeting the requirements of Kim, Lynn, and Leon and the rest of the team there, but also understanding um, the administrative, facilitating the administration of you're going in and filling out the different reports and so on. So, to that end, what we're going to talk about today is uh, just just some general navigation around the system. And talking a little bit about once you've, and as a starting point, what we're going to do is start from the standpoint of an agency that hasn't been funded yet, coming into the system to um, apply for funds, but they have to register first. So, what does that process look like? And then once their registration takes place, we'll look at accessing the system to apply for funds, maintaining your agency details, and we'll get into that, which now includes a board member list. And we'll go over the application process. There's a number of steps associated with that. And then we'll get into the quarterly reports and the compliance items on an ongoing basis. To that end, let's start with a new registration. So the URL is ccmhb.ddbrds.org, and you would come into, excuse me here, register, and we're just going to make up a agency 2026. You'll see then is a number of funding source options. The IDE/DD special initiatives will not be present when the registration period opens. It'll just be the DD board and the mental health board. And what you do here, then select the board or boards that you're applying for funds for and hit continue. And what you'll find as you scroll down is that there is a code, and I'm going to make sure SCU 53. And this allows you to do part of the registration and then come back again. You'll find then, relative to some of the guidelines from the Mental Health and DD Board of the funding guidelines and how to apply for funding, the instructions around that. We'll just keep this simple here in terms of the agreement that you've read those guidelines and instructions. So click acknowledge and then scroll back down. And what that does then is lead then to filling out the registration form. So I'm going to do this real quick. The what's important in this particular section here is that the email and phone will come into play because when the registration is done, The person who is set as the executive director will receive then login information to get into the system and set up users. The other item here, we may take this off your EIN, though this is important. Then go down and click on complete the eligibility questionnaire. You'll notice, and this is going to be throughout, as we go through the application sections, the quarterly reports, you'll see in the header of the different forms a message area that will show you what whether or not whether you've completed all the required fields in that particular form. So there's 37 questions. We can go through this pretty quickly, but need to show you how that looks. Anything with a yellow background is a required field. And as you go down further, there'll be then are you applying for developmental disabilities, mental health? No, test. What's important here is the corporate status of your organization. If you select, for instance, not-for-profit, then the system's going to track whether or not you have filled in these fields that fall under the not-for-profit section. And you can skip then the for-profit section. And while I'm going through this, you can get an idea of the questions that are being asked. Almost there.
I'll just briefly add that this is for new agencies that are registering. So if you are a returning agency, you will not need to do this, although occasionally we will update this and ask that even returning agencies do complete this. But at for this new funding year, we are not asking that.
And then you save. And if all of the required fields have been filled in, and you'll notice that the error message up here is I'm missing one required field, so I went too fast. But again, this highlights where to double check as you go. If you're not generating, which is what we'll have happen here once we take care of that one remaining question of being able to then submit. And there it is. So once we go down and save again, you'll notice now a submit button appears. This is pretty much the format that you'll see throughout. So we want to click on submit, get one more chance to change questions, and then with that in play, let's see here. And that's case sensitive. You scroll back down through this, and then you'll see at the bottom a choose a username. And when you save this, what you'll receive then is the email that was put into the registration. They will receive an email with a password to get into the system, and then with the ability to create users, agency users to come in and um, be able then to fill out the application, reporting the quarterly reports as well as the compliance items. So that's the process of getting registered with the two boards. So armed with that login, you now registered user login, and I'm going to do and we use two-factor authentication. So what the first time a user will attempt to log in, they'll be prompted to identify a method for receiving this two-factor authentication code. We're recommending either voicemail or text. Text tends to be the most widely used. Email is not as reliable because a number of email applications tend to uh, block such communication. So this is what it looks like when you come in. Uh, you've already done the agency registration, so the main application um, uh, menu item within the system is agency. And we'll just kind of step through here that you've got application, quarterly reports, and compliance items are your main set. Your clinicians, claims details um, are for a few agencies on the DD side, but not the mental health board side. And when you'll find that you come to the home page, and we're going to work on having this anchor at the top as opposed to in the middle. But you'll see a message from um, Lynn, Kim, Leon, and the rest of the team, as well as key documents that can be downloaded to access and reference. We would ask that this be the agency detail section be updated and maintained. If there's a change in, let's say, I left NAMI about a year and a half ago. Um, if there's a change, say in the for the executive director, for instance, that this should be updated to reflect that on an ongoing basis. And then at the bottom is that unlike what we had in the past, the board member list is being um, maintained here. And Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, and Leon, that the objective here is to have the agencies keep this current. If there are changes on the board, that those changes be reflected here. And so there's a couple of ways to do this. You could have a spreadsheet that has these headers. You can fill it out and upload it, or you can come into here and click on Add Row, put in your position. and so on, and then hit save. So if there is an occasion where someone is no longer there, the way to do that is to um, click on the row, as I have here, click delete row, and hit save. Uh, I've been talking here for about 15 minutes. Any questions so far?
Hey, Alex, this is Leon. Hopefully, and maybe you'll get to this, but at some point, will we have a moment to talk about forgetting passwords and new staff needing access to the system?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we
great.
can talk about that now if you like.
Whenever it's convenient. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So if we one is there is the ability for a user to come in. So the guidelines really are, and Leon, if I've missed any point that you wanted conveyed, certainly let me know. Uh, Number one is that the for security reasons and accountability reasons, it's best that every user have their own unique login. So that would come from the executive director or whoever registered to begin with in the system. Um, Secondly, is to certainly keep in terms of passwords, there is the ability of somebody to come in and change it. If the password is for some reason lost or forgotten, that is a case where you would have to call. And who would they call at the office, Leon?
So if a staff member lost their password, they would need to speak to their executive director, who can then um, reissue a new password. If that executive director is unable to do that, then they would reach out via email to myself, Kim, or Lynn, or any of the staff to seek assistance with that. But we prefer that the agency executive director make that change for staff, for their staff.
Excellent. Is that what you're alluding to, Leon? Did I capture?
I think you got it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. So, you're registered, you're logging in, you've viewed contact information and other instructions in the message board. The agency details are up to date. The board member list is up to date. Now, you're ready to apply for funds. And what we have, we're going to look at this kind of two different perspectives. One is let's look at which I think is going to be the majority of the cases, those who have already applied for funds before. So that's the case with issue agency here, which is kind of scary, is that we're already talking about fiscal 2026. And what you'll notice is that, again, here are all the sections that have to be completed. And when we talk about completed, we mean submitted. You can save and complete all the required fields, but you have to submit it. And of course, what submission means is that it's now in read-only form. Um, so the, excuse me, this message will be updated. Let's see, to reflect the new um, registration and application period. This is a personnel form Excel template for downloading purpose. We'll refer to that in a moment. Deadline for these requests is going to be February 10th at 4:30. So you'll have that visibility to that. When we talk about the application, it's really four different steps. One is identifying the program or programs you're seeking funding for. Second is step two is related to agency forms. So these are forms that are at the agency level versus the program level. There's a narrative, there's a cultural and linguistic competence plan. Um, and then third are program forms. These are specific to every program that is listed in step one. It's the narrative, personnel form, revenue form, expense form, budget narrative. And once all these are completed and submitted, then the authorization and cover form, which essentially is the envelope that you're sending all of these other sections, it encloses that, and by virtue of submitting this form, which can only be submitted once all the other steps have been submitted, will be the last step in formally submitting an application to um, the boards. What you'll notice here is that in order to facilitate uh, filling out a subsequent year funding application, is that we clone all of the results from the previous application. And so instead of having to create and enter a new program, you just come in and look at validating people. Now, what will happen is that if you need to, if you're not applying for funds under this program, then you would delete this and we would start over, and I'll show you that as a kind of a fresh start to the process. Secondly, in the step two, is that we pull forward all of that was written and submitted the year before. So, and let's see, this is the agreement. Okay, so this would be where you, complete this section. For the cultural and competency plan, similar that you, and I'm trying to remember, Kim and Leon, I didn't do it in this particular case. Do we pull forward or is it asked to be restarted again?
I believe these are cloned and pulled forward.
Okay. Okay. So what you would find here then is um, um, what was submitted the year before, and then you'd be able to edit it to bring it up to date if there are changes from the previous year's application.
Chandra, is that correct?
Hey, Kim, I think it is correct. I could be wrong, but I believe it is. I don't see Chandra on the call.
He was, but maybe not.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that could be a good clarifying thing to put in in the message board at the beginning. So as these get submitted, and actually, let's just go back and show. So, for instance, for the agreement, you'll notice that at the header now, it shows it as being great, Chandra. Thanks very much. That the status is complete. It's okay. And if we go back to the application, you'll notice that um, the interagency agreement is no longer part of the section listed as having still to be completed. The program narrative, we're into step 3 now on the program specific forms. Same thing, it pulls forward what the answers were before. Um, and that you can edit them. And once you're satisfied that this is now current for the new fiscal year application, then the same and the status goes from pending to complete. A couple of nuances now as we get into the program-specific forms. On the personnel form, there's a couple of ways to complete it. One is to upload a spreadsheet. And there is a spreadsheet that was available as I pointed out at the beginning up here. It's an Excel template, the CSV file in particular. And this is what it's a simple file that has these headers in. You would then fill out accordingly here. And the type is, and you don't even need to put it in in this template, but the types are direct or indirect personnel costs, and the status are active or termed. The other two column headers are hire date and end date, if applicable. So with respect to that, you could either upload the sheet or build the file here. As a note here, if you look at if you leave either the total program FTE or total program salary blank, ideally is just to go ahead and then say half the person's time is on the program. And then of their and let's say it's the same for what the mental health board is funding or that you're seeking funding for. And here is your status and what have you. And then you build it accordingly. A footnote here is that the total coming from the this file is going to populate the expense form, and we'll see that in a second. But again, once you're done with the personnel form, you want to submit. And in fact, let's just submit as we go so we show at the end where that authorization and cover form comes in. So in the personnel form, the next is the revenue form. And again, this is cloned and pulled forward. The amount that you're asking for in the program is what's is reflected here. You notice when we identified the program, that there wasn't an amount requested field. The amount you're requesting for this particular program is entered here. So let's say it's 10,000 with different expenses. A couple of notes as you get into these financial forms. Number one is don't enter dollar signs or commas. And I'll show you as we look at creating new forms for, say, new programs. You'll notice that you will notice that the fields will have a yellow background. In other words, you need to fill out every field, even if it's zero. A footnote, I'm just going to leave that blank or unsubmitted for the moment. Expense forms, much the same thing. What you'll see in the expense form is it's pull forward in terms of the salary and wages, right, that we had. So when we look at, so this is read only. Again, this is pulled from the personnel form. So there's no editing that. If you need to change that, that's why I didn't submit the personnel form yet. You might want to make sure that your expense and revenue forms are complete and match. And one of the validations that appears before you're able to submit the expense form is that and let me put is that what you're applying for under the mental health board or DD board line or column, these expenses much match the revenue that you had in the revenue form that you're seeking from the mental health board or the DD board. So let's see, we had. So anyway, the way I have the personnel form is going to make this a little bit difficult, but the idea is that when it's all said and done, the revenue form and I'm sorry, this CCMHB or CCDDB expenses match the CCMHB or CCDDB revenue. You want this to be zero, and when it is, then you're good to submit the expense report. So just to show you, if you try to submit it, there's an error. CCMHB expenses must be balanced. So that's what the error would look like when they are not balanced. And as you can see, as we submitted the various forms, they are no longer appearing in the application header. Budget narrative. In the past, and again, this is pulled forward from the year before. In the past, there have been issues with submitting this because of what essentially happened was the number of characters exceeds the space that's allowed. So what we have is I'll just type it in here. Essentially, there is provision for 4,000 characters. If you were to type it up in, let's say, Word, and then copy, Alt-E-C and then Alt-E-P over to here, so to speak, what happens is that Microsoft includes characters. So in other words, a particular character, and I'm making this up for illustration purposes, a dollar sign might, in and of itself, is one character, but Microsoft might have two other characters associated with that. So you might show that you've typed in 3,700 characters, but in fact, there's more than that. So what we're doing is setting up to that we're going to at 3,700 characters. When you save it, we will give you a warning if what you've entered into the particular field exceeds that 3,700, just to give you an idea, and then certainly if it exceeds the 4,000 characters. So there's been, and then on top of that, that error message will be up here, right? So if you hit submit and you're not able to, you're not able to submit it, and you come back up to the header to look at, what the error message is, it will tell you that, where you are relative to the character count. So again, that's been one that's had some attention over the last couple of years. So just be cognizant of, of the limitation here. And the other aspect is if you are going to type it in Word, way to get rid of some of those characters is just hold your control key plus V. And that eliminates a lot of those characters that are interjected by Microsoft. Once all of the above sections are completed, again, we haven't submitted these three, and then of course the cover form itself. But once you come to here, you'll be asked to click on I agree, put in the name of the executive officer. We're gonna you're not Leon and Kim, you're not using this when you print it out. Are you asking them to sign?
No, the electronic submission is
Oh, that's right. Sure. So we're going to remove this, so it's not. I remember getting a few questions on, are we supposed to sign here or something like that? That can be easily removed. So once everything's saved here, and assuming that all of these have already been submitted, excuse me. Then once it's saved here, then the submit button will come up and you hit submit, and then the application itself is completed and submitted formally to the two boards. Let's see. If you're coming in and creating a new application, then each of these sections will have a create button. And in this case, you put in the program name. Let's assume then that these different sections were, you're starting a completely new application because you have not submitted for funds before. Then you would hit create and fill them out accordingly. If you're looking for a second program to be funded or an additional program, you come in and put in the new, hit create. And now the key here is that once it didn't save it. Why not? Have to check that. What will happen is that these program forms in number 3 will have, each of these sections will have to be completed for every program that you create. Questions on the application?
nothing in the chat.
Okay. Quarterly reports. Back to agency, quarterly reports. Again, instructions here at the top. This grid's important. These reports, the program revenue expense, um, residency by zip code and utilization, all are to be completed every quarter. Um, Kim and Leon can speak to due dates for when they're due, X number of days after the particular quarter is over. The expense report, just as a footnote, if there are variances that exist, um, believe these variances are comparisons of the report against the application.
Yes.
Okay. Then there's then explanations for those variances are required. Performance outcome report is at the end of the year, and cultural and linguistic competence report is twice a year. Here are downloadable files to guide you through completing these reports. Of course, it would be 2026. That hasn't been set up yet because reports are being done now. But what would happen is you come in and create the program report, select the program, period, hit create, and fill these out accordingly. Again, there's instructions as to how to do that. In a similar vein with respect to the different sections in the application, once you've completed the filling out these fields, then submit them, and then return to quarterly reports. Again, any errors will be reflected up here. Residency by zip code. Same process in terms of creating them. The Kim and Leon, there's been a little bit of a change to this in that I think we combined some of these codes into one field.
Yes, we used to have Urbana and Champaign specifically listed, each zip code listed, and those have just been condensed into all of Urbana and all of Champaign.
Great. Next is your utilization demographic report. Same process. This has also been updated.
Correct. We've added language use and have changed some of the other options in some of the other categories. And for current year, we know that this is new for everyone. And so we understand if this was not information that you had been collecting. So we are being understanding and flexible for this first year of the change in the reporting.
Then we get into the revenue. Same process of creating. And here's a case where, and oh, by the way, just as a kind of a navigation point, if you click in the upper left-hand corner next to the logo, then you get the full screen view. All these fields are, so what you'll find is that once you save this, that it will pull forward the values from the application. Um, Again, these with respect to the uh, required fields having the yellow background, again, it's uh, each one has to be filled in. If you're putting in values, it's it will put in the reason the application ones have not come in is that the application hasn't been submitted for, for the fiscal year in question. But they will appear when that is the case. Um, So again, every one of these have to be completed with 0 or some value before you can submit it. Same with expense report. Form looks very similar to what we just looked at for the revenue form. And kind of the summary across the different categories. The system is keeping track then of, and again, this one is for the cultural linguistic. This is for you choose the particular progress report. It's created on your computer system. You choose the file and upload it here. This is quarters 2 and 4, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks, Chandra.
Chandra, is the upload option available, or does that require explicit approval from you?
Right.
So the upload option is available for quarter 2. The upload option for the application and fourth quarter report is exclusively must be approved by me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Chandra. Good question. And then the same with the performance measured outcomes. Again, that's at the end of the year, I assume, reporting is choose the file and upload it here. Once all that's done and the system's keeping track of what quarter it's in and what nuances exist for, say, quarter 2 and quarter 4, once all of the forms are submitted, then Chandra and the rest of the team will, as a whole, will receive a notice that the quarterly report have been completed. Actually, there's a dashboard that they will see what quarterly reports are done. Any other questions or comments for quarterly reporting?
I do have a comment. If you are not going to be able to get your reports completed by the due date, we do have a quarterly report extension request form that we ask you to complete and submit to us prior to the due date of those quarterly reports. And that is found on your agency quarterly reports page. It is in the documents on the page.
Okay, good to go on to compliance items?
Yes.
Okay. This is pretty straightforward, and what we'll find as we transition into the new, as the transition takes place into the new fiscal year, it will default to 2026. But I'm going to, because we haven't cloned over, I'm going to just show an earlier year, fiscal year, and the what it will look like are the different compliance checklist items, liability insurance. I believe there's a fairly standard set across the agencies, but some agencies might have certain compliance items that others don't. Um, but what you'll see is that when the particular type is due, and the system keeps track of. So um, when the time comes, though, to go ahead and upload the file, it's a pretty simple step. You go ahead and choose your file, select, and the one to choose from here is agency compliance items or documents. Um, Describe it, and then upload it. And then what will happen is the system will show the actual date it was uploaded and who uploaded and what the date was that and the name of the file. You can go back in and look at the file if you like. Um, in this particular case, and sorry if I don't recall this specifically, um, Leon and Kim, that on the actual date, are you putting in the actual date after reviewing, in other words, kind of accepting that the document meets that particular requirement, or or is this going in automatically? I think it might be going in automatically.
Yeah, the date goes in automatically.
Okay. There's a little variance with our other mental health board clients that I have, so I wanted to make sure I knew that one and described it correctly. So that's really it, and that there's a way for the um, for the management team to keep track of from a global standpoint of who is past due on their compliance items and so on. But that's what that form looks like, and that's how to meet this particular reporting requirement. The last thing I have, and I don't know if you want me to get into it or not, it's just as an agency to because you do have access to create users, as you also have access to take users out of use if they're no longer with you or no longer responsible for reporting into the system. It's best to have only um, active users being shown as active in the system. So if somebody leaves
We're still seeing the compliance screen.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay. I just figured you had.
Oh no, that's good. Well, I'm just looking at my agenda anyway. So thanks for
Sorry
mentioning
about that.
Oh no, that's good. No, that's good to know. It would just encourage each agency to not delete the user, but just to take them out of use if they're no longer. And that's pretty straightforward. You just click on the agency user. Actually, I can show this. Are you still seeing the compliance list?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So if I got back to main menu and agency user, and you pick, and you just go in and click not in use and save it and apply changes. So yeah, just to encourage that the more security steps that can be taken, the better. That was my agenda list. Chandra, Leon, and Kim. What did I miss? What questions are there?
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything. I was just gonna ask if anybody has any specific questions that Alex might be able to answer while we've got him here. Or any points of the system that you'd like him to review again.
This is Steve Beckett. There's a natural variance that I think occurs because of the required financial review document, that report that has to be submitted how is that reflected in the quarterly reports when it's achieved after the year end?
I'm sorry, are you asking how you would report on the variance in
Yes.
reports? It would
Yep.
just be the same. It should just be the same as if you were doing it for like a current quarterly report. There shouldn't be significant changes that you should have to deal with.
Okay.
And if you do notice that there's something that is significantly different, please reach out to Lynn or someone and we can step you through that. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much for this presentation, Alex, and thank you all for joining us. As Alex mentioned, the online system will be opening for program year 26 applications on December 20th, and it will be closing February, what was that date? February 12th? February 10th, excuse me. I think it was the 12th. So applications will be accepted from December 20th, 2024 at 8 a.m. until February 10th, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. So thank you all for joining us. I will send a certificate of completion as well as a survey for those of you that signed in on the Google Doc.
Hey, Kim, quick question, a possible recording of this at some
This
point?
is being recorded, yes, and once I get the subtitles edited, this will be posted on our online system home screen. It will replace the video from last year that was posted there. So I will get that out. And Alex also has a user manual that will, once we get that finalized, I'll send that with the certificate and the survey link.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.